welcome to Kim Talks Resilience, where we share stories of insight and inspiration in life, love, and business with resilient women from around the world. Speaking with authors, entrepreneurs, founders, and coaches to learn their strategies for a more resilient life so we can all build the life we love. I'm your host, Kim Hayden. All righty, welcome back. Welcome back. I'm super excited. You just missed a 45-minute conversation beforehand. And I'm promising you something here right now. You're going to learn a lot today around how this world is moving, shifting, changing, and who we should be listening to. I promise you, you're going to get some insight as to why we need to listen to the change makers and the thought leaders that are helping human beings find their new homes, their new spaces, why we have to have this, what's coming down the pipe. So you're in for a great conversation with our guest today, who's author, speaker. Irma Goosen is dedicated to aiding the legal journey of those pursuing Canadian permanent residency. Goosen employs her Connect framework, and we'll get into that in a little bit, as she supports families through third-party agencies, emphasizing integration into chosen communities by collaborating with business and employers. Goosen introduces soft skills to address challenges, enabling immigrants to seamlessly integrate. As an immigrant from South Africa, she sheds light on the benefits of legal immigration through speaking engagements, authored works, and showcasing human experiences. So this is, I'm super excited. Welcome to the show, Irma.
Hello, Kim. I'm so happy to be here on the Friday before the end of the year.
Yes. You know, it's 2023 has been an interesting year. And I think a lot of 2023 plays into what the services you're providing. We've seen some really horrific things happen globally around war and such. I am a mother of 3 children with 2 grandchildren, with a mother, 3 sisters. You know, I have friends. I can't fathom what I would do in order to provide safety and security like we have here in Canada for my children. And I know that these are stories that you're coming across all the time, people who are seeking safety and seeking a better opportunity. But before we dive into what you're doing, I'd really like for you to share us a little bit about Irma and how you have come to this decision that this is what you're doing, even though, tell us a little bit about your education background, coming to Canada and everything. Give us a bit of a highlight as to who is Irma.
Oh, thank you. I worked in engineering in South Africa, and I thought that's where I was going to stay for the rest of my life. But you know the analogy of the frog in the cool water, and then you start adding warmer water, and it's warmer and warmer. Eventually, it can be boiling on the stove. That was me in South Africa until my daughter's daycare got attacked in broad daylight by AK-47 wielding attackers. And that's when I thought, it's okay for me to be in danger. It's not okay for my daughter to be in danger. And so we left and we moved to the US. And there I realized you're not just going to adapt in any easy way. There is work to be done. And for me as an immigrant, I had to find those tips and tricks of how do you adapt? How do you fit into your new community? I mean, many of you probably know the Texans, their accent is a little bit different to understand. So I had to work at that. I was a visitor in a new country. And the same happened when I came to Canada. I was a visitor. I had to adapt. I had to fit in. I couldn't expect the Americans or the Canadians to change their ways for me to suit, to fit, to have a wonderful life. No. That is when I realized that all those tips, all those little tricks of how to really assimilate into an environment, into a new community. And it's not just immigration, it's whether you work and move from one province to another or from one state to another. What exactly do you do to fit in? And that is when I now am working with immigrants and I'm showing them exactly what I went through and what I did. So the connect concept is what I created, and that is also why I'm doing what I'm doing, because there are so many others just like me who want a new life. They want to start over. And that is where I come from.
Okay, so we're going to dive into the connect principles in just a moment, but first I want to know why you think immigration, why do you think that there is these gaps, these disconnects? Why do you think you have opposing parties where they say we have too many people coming in? Or why do you think some people never truly immigrate into society? Can you give us a little bit of insight on that?
When you are new in a new country, a new community, first of all, many people have a language issue. So they don't quite understand the nuances of the community they're in. They don't understand it's okay to ask for help, or it's okay to look in a different direction and look at a different school. If the school your kids go to, for example, if they're not happy, they don't know that. And because we have so many immigrants coming in, I feel that we, as long-term residents in Canada specifically, but also around the world, it's up to us to make the new immigrants feel welcome. It's up to us to make room for them, because you and I talked about it, but think about it. Fewer babies get born every year, and we have an aging population that they they're taking the skills, they're taking their experiences with them. So what you're left with in the middle is a gap. You have a very young generation and a very older generation. The immigrants bring with them skills and experiences.
Yeah.
They have the traits that we have to make sure we keep. We don't want to lose them.
And I know that we were speaking briefly before the show around housing. And my husband is a specialist within prefabrication and conversion housing. And the the big problem is we don't have anybody swing a hammer anymore. We don't have enough plumbers. We don't have enough electricians. And think I think toilets kind of are universal globally. I think plumbing is kind of the principles of plumbing are somewhat universal. The principles of electricity are universal. I think that these are all different trades that we should be looking at really qualified people and offering them the opportunity here in North America. Because it is, even though we hear, the, unfortunately in the United States with some of the gun crime and things like that, it's still far safer than South Africa. It's still far safer than being in a war torn zone, right? And so yeah, I mean, there's so much here to unpack. And at the end of the day, climate change or climate refugees, war refugees, people seeking better opportunities, safety opportunities for their children, like you and your daughter. That these are facts. These are facts, and it's something that we're very blessed in North America to be
Mhm.
able to be somewhat. We're insular in the sense that you got to have a pretty big boat or an airplane to get to us. It's really hard to cross over into South America and tour up through Central America and come up through Mexico in order to get. It can be done. It can be done. There's no question. However, it's not like in Europe where you're seeing so much movement within actually very small spaces. We think of countries, you know, like, well, when you think of Germany, or you think of uh, Poland, which has become an incredible financial powerhouse for Europe. Um, it's still walking distance. If you really needed, you could walk somewhere, you could flee somewhere. Coming to North America is really an endeavor. And I think going you're saying, supporting those people who are putting that much effort to come, help them.
Mhm.
I mean, have you ever seen, somebody who smoked for 20 years and then they become a non-smoker and now they're adamant about being a non-smoker? They can smell it if it's 4 cars away on the freeway, somebody's smoking. That's Isn't that kinda like immigrants who actually truly fully adopt their new country?
Mm.
Don't they in some ways become more passionate about that country than people who are born there?
Yes, I find that as well. One thing that I am truly passionate about is that legal immigrants pay to be in the new country. They pay to move, they pay for all the visas, all the lawyers. It's a lot of money they put into that new country. And we don't give enough credit and respect to that. When you move to a new country, you want to be there. You want to fit in. You want to show the country that you deserve to be there. So, why treat all these immigrants who pay so much to be here legally? Why not making sure there is enough housing, there is enough schools, employment opportunities? Give them the benefit of the doubt. They have experience. You cannot come to Canada if you don't have qualifications,
Yeah.
if you don't have experience, if you don't at least have a trade. We have to accept that without immigrants, we will not be able to remain one of the most affluent countries in the world. We won't be able to. We won't be able to be at the forefront of all this technology.
Oh, yeah.
We let go.
Absolutely. Okay, so I want to put a full clarification in here. You are not an immigration lawyer,
No,
and you cannot advise people legally.
no.
However, I would like to know a range. I'm not asking for specifics, but I'm asking based on your personal experience of immigrating to Canada. Can you give us a range as to what was the timeline and how much did that cost?
I moved from the US to Canada. So that started off with a work visa because you have to be legal to work.
Yeah.
And then until I got my Canadian citizenship, that took about 5 years. So
5 years.
it's not an easy fix. It's not a it takes time. And during that time, when you're waiting to become a permanent resident, when you're waiting to be able to become a citizen, that you can finally belong, that you can finally vote for your new country, within your new country, it takes a lot of time. Money wise, you go through lawyers, you have to pay extra for education because you come in as an immigrant. You do have to pay extra. If you look at all the international students that Canada have allowed to be in the country, they pay a lot more than what the
Yeah,
citizens pay. So at the end of the day, you pay a lot of money.
and I think that's something that we have to think about because you always tend to take care of something that you invest in. It's like
Yeah.
when you buy your kid their first car, it's typically trashed within a year. However, if you offer your kid matching funds or you make them buy their own car, that
Mhm.
car tends to last a whole lot longer and there's a lot more pride in it. So, boy, I'm just throwing the analogies out. Speaking of analogies and acronyms, connect, CONNECT. Walk us through that and why this is becoming kind of the cornerstone of how you serve businesses and new Canadians alike.
It's a 7-step acronym or concept. And the first one, the C, is for communicate. You have to communicate with the people around you. You have to make sure there's a line of communication open between you and just in the community, the schools, the teachers, for example, your people at the grocery store. You have to out what are you struggling with. Without communication, we don't really get very far. We need to have that line open so that we can adapt and really fit into our new community. Alongside that comes to be open-minded. If you are not open-minded to the culture in your new country, you cannot survive. It's not your culture. It's not what you're used to. It's not what you bring with you. It's your new country all about. What do the citizens do? What are the customs? How do they do things? How do they talk to each other? You have to be prepared to change the way you're used to things to being able to adapt. So you have to be open-minded to change to anything that's different to what your belief systems are. Then we going on to working. You know, it's so easy for us, especially after COVID, to be at home and not to be with anyone. But if you want to truly fit in, if you're an engineer, you want to start networking with other engineers. If you are a teacher, you want to start networking with other teachers. If you are a doctor, you want to network with other doctors because at the end of the day, these communities help you to fit into your new country even better. You bring those connections then back home as well because you learn so many things. You have to nurture the new relationships that you're creating as well as the relationships you left behind. You have family still in your home country, but you're also building new families within your friends. They become the family that you miss back home. So you have to nurture them. Very, very important though. Remember to nurture yourself first. It's like when we sit on the plane, and here's another analogy for you, Kim. When we sit on the plane and they tell us, you grab that oxygen mask first before you help anyone else. If you don't have oxygen, you cannot breathe to help someone else. Going from nurturing these relationships, then you have the confidence to explore, go on day trips, go with friends, learn new sports, learn new crafts, but explore. It is so easy to say, I am not a hiker. I am not going to do any hiking. This is an example, but you know what? Just go walk in your neighborhood. Find out where there's a grocery store. Find out where the doctors are, where the closer schools are to your neighborhood. And then just take those little tippy toes out, dip them into a little bit of water outside of your community, and continue exploring. Explore and find out about the different cultures around you, because together we can do so much. And Helen Keller actually said that. She said, alone, we can do so little. Together, we can accomplish so much. So explore, and then you go and you cultivate those relationships and bring more and create more, and they will grow. Because at the end of the day, we are human. We are connected by what's pleasure, what by makes us feel that we are important. And that's this human connection. And we need that. We need to know that no man is an island, and yet we can do all of this if only we take the first step.
And see, I see so many correlations between, community leaders and business owners to 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 the Connect program, also to the Connect principle. And I love the fact that you've walked us through that and really kind of food for thought. Food for thought. This is really important. And I find the networking one, and that was interesting that you mentioned, about COVID. The networking one has been really hard for a lot of us to swing back into. And I can't even imagine if you were you had that cultural difference, if you had the language barrier, how much harder that would be. Um, so I always ask a story of resilience, and I would love for you to share a story of resilience that was probably one of your harder times on your journey in this great, amazing life we all have, and then give us just like one thing that helped you push through.
I was back in South Africa, and I was an aerobics instructor. And I grew up and I lived by sleeping with a gun underneath my pillow. And everywhere I went, I had a gun. And I would have used it. I knew how to use it. But as an aerobics instructor, I was not to take the gun into the gym. I couldn't leave it in my car, because then if my car got stolen, I would have had a criminal offense. I could have been charged. One night I came out of the gym and I was accosted by a group of young men from a tribe, a local tribe. And I am 5'3". They were all over 6 feet, and they were probably between 17, 18 years up to 24 years old. And they just joked around. They played with me. They pushed me around. I managed to get in my car, and I managed to start my car. They picked my car up. They dropped it. They shoved it from side to side while I was inside. I managed to start the car and to get away. I've never been so scared for my personal safety that until that day. Before then, I've heard these horror stories. I've heard what was happening in South Africa. I mean, it's one of the most crime-riddled countries in the world. It's a beautiful country. There are many opportunities. But I then realized something would have to give. And that idea of maybe, just maybe, there is something better out there. There is a place where I could be safer. That little seed started to grow. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Mike got attacked in broad daylight. And that's when that seed blossomed and became a full-grown plant. And that's when I left. And I've never been on a plane before. In my life, I did an intercontinental flight for my first Virgin flight. And I landed in Texas on Christmas Eve. And I also mentioned this in my TED talk. I was blown away because there were families walking on the side of the road. They didn't have guns. They didn't, they were safe. And I saw all the Christmas decorations and I thought, it's not going to get stolen because I didn't know. I mean, I
Yep.
was used to everything that's not tied and strapped and bolted got stolen. So it was quite a shock to my system that I could actually go for a walk and I would be okay. And then, of course, the biggest one was when we came to Canada. And we didn't know that central heating is actually a thing, that you could freeze. You didn't turn that little slider. And it took a Canadian babysitter who walked in one morning and she looked at us and said, "Why is your house so cold?" I said, "Well, we don't know. We have no idea how we're going to survive this Canadian winter." And she went, "Come with me. Come with me." And she showed us.
I didn't even think about that. Even just the simplicity of a thermostat from one culture to the next.
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. I mean, I knew
Interesting.
about air conditioning, that it can cool a house. I didn't know you got the reverse. It can warm a house. And now I love the heat in my house. And I know I'm very blessed to have that. But I'm very grateful in these winters to have
Yeah.
central heating.
Oh, and I will admit I'm spoiled. I'm very spoiled. I love my fireplace and the gas fireplace. The wood fireplace is very nice, but gas is just a flip of a switch, and then I get the ambiance.
Mm,
I get the
yeah.
and I can go cuddle up next to it, and I get the blower going. So I get that. And you know what? It's interesting. I left my home state as with a toddler because I knew I had to find a better option. And I think that's something that we need to stress. It's about finding finding that home. It's about finding home
Yes.
because when you live in terror or you live in fear and for myself, I'm American. I came from Kansas. I wasn't in a war torn country. Now stuff did get stolen if it wasn't nailed down. I'm just saying. I was in that neighborhood. But and that's what surprised me when I first moved to Calgary. It's like, oh, look at all these bistros and they have nice sets and they're
I
not
know.
chained down. What? So, but I digress. But home is the definition of safety. Home
Yes.
allows you to thrive and allows you to grow. And I think that we're going to see a lot of movement around the world, even more so because that movement is accessible. We can get on a plane, we can navigate oceans and cross countries so much easier now, that
Mhm.
allowing people, moms like yourself and myself, every mother has the right to find safety and security in a home for her child, no
Uh,
matter where you're born, no
ye
matter the color of your skin or the language you speak.
yes. Yes.
I I agree 110% with you, Irma. We're going to go real quickly over here to your book. You are a published author. Tell us a little bit about the Cinderella monologues and what the reader can expect from not only the book but your contribution.
Oh, it was such a fun project to work on. I was approached to talk about my journey and how it led me to be a TEDx speaker and what got me there. Why did I do that? And then, of course, talking it. And I'm in chapter 8, but there are 14 women who wrote stories of resilience, of thriving, of overcoming such enthralling almost portions in their lives where when they persevered and when they got through it, they now are all triumphant. And that is why it was for me such an honor to be approached to be in this book, because of that, because I have come from living a life of fear every single day to freedom, to being free. It is a very foreign concept for so many people around the world. And I am so grateful that I have this opportunity to help others because I've been there. And the Cinderella monologues have been very, very important in bringing that to the forefront. And the Mila Johansson, she's collected all these stories, she believes in it. She believes in that we can overcome anything. Women are so strong. We can do anything. And that is what the story was about.
Amazing. Amazing. My screen seems to have frozen here. So I think we're going to have the book up there for a while. Uh, all righty. So at this, oh, there we go. There we go. Don't mind me, folks. We're just working through some technical issues here. Awesome. Okay. So we've talked about the book. We've talked about your program. Where can people find you? So that where can they reach you, connect with you, and engage you?
On my website and on LinkedIn, I do like to connect with people on LinkedIn because it's very direct. And all the links that you've been showing at the bottom there, that is where they can get hold of me. I feel that there are so many different ways we can connect with people. See what I did there? So
Absolutely. So, folks, that's Irma Goosen, IRMAGOOSEN.com, IrmaGoosen.com. We will have all of her contacts, everything in the show notes themselves. And again, that book is the Cinderella Monologues, the second edition. She is in the 8th chapter. And these are inspiring stories of women finding courage and success. But Irma, at this point, I would love for you to close us out with, and by the way, I loved the quote that you shared. Can you share the quote and why it's important to you?
Audrey Hepburn, one of my favorite women, said, "Nothing is impossible because the word itself says, I'm possible." And when things go a little bit haywire and life gets in the way and the kids are driving you crazy and you think, I cannot do this, there's just absolutely no way I can continue. Yes, you can. Because you're possible.
Alrighty, folks, put a crown on that t-shirt because I'm possible. Irma, I thank you so much for joining us here on Kim Talks. Again, all of Irma's contact information will be in our show notes. Watch our social media. We will be sharing out this episode. And if you're struggling, you need a little help, do reach out to Irma. This is interesting times we are in, but believe it or not, there's a lot of people who want to support you. And until next time, thanks for joining us. Thank you for joining us here today at Kim Talks Resilience. I'm your host, Kim Hayden, and I'd love to invite you to our resilient community at resilientgift.com. That's resilientgift.com, and we'll send you our magazine and tickets for upcoming events and all sorts of cool things we do here. So be sure to keep watching, and you know what? Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share, because we all know that sharing is caring.